So Ward, Russell touched upon the attacks on American intelligentsia more broadly, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're seeing happening with fellow Professor Adrian Anderson, with Professor Shahid Alam of Northeastern University, and where you think we're at in terms of academic freedom, freedom of speech in this country.
Adrian Anderson is a perfect example. She's at the University of Colorado and is an untenured instructor in environmental studies and cross-lists her course with ethnic studies, does a lot of critical investigative work, trains her students and engages her students in such activities, critical investigative work, research, basically, with regard to things that are going on right now as opposed to things that happened 10 or 20 or 50 years ago, having to do with corporate fraud, corporate pollution of the environment, and such. And by all accounts, including the assessments of the people who refused to renew her contract and canceled her courses so that they will be unavailable to students, she was an ace researcher. She engaged her students, their critical faculties, taught them proper methods. She is an excellent classroom teacher. And the criticism then comes down, how would a son or daughter of an upper echelon executive at the Coors Corporation, for example, feel about what it was that was being exposed through her teaching?
And that was specifically said.
That was specifically said in evaluation, a glowing evaluation of her competence as an instructor, the quality of her research, the way she was able to energize and stimulate students. But how would one of the offender's offspring feel if the offenses were brought out? You cannot offend the offenders. If you cannot offend the offenders, and that's the rule of academic enterprise, you can engage in no critical scrutiny of anything at all, because any critical engagement will result in somebody being offended, usually the people who are the offenders. There you have it. And that's a political sterilization of the academic endeavor, explicitly political, with economic overtones or financial overtones, because the offenders tend to be the people, by virtue of their offenses, capable of providing economic support to institutions, essentially to sanitize and apologize for their offenses. So that's the idea.
So she's not working at the university now?
She will complete the semester, the present semester. Her contract runs through that. She is not to be renewed, and the courses themselves are to be canceled. And that's been announced as an agenda by members of the Board of Regents of the University of Colorado, to go back and require justification for the existence, the very existence of every single department, okay, and an explanation as to the utility of every single course in the core of the university. That's the opening round. They've already made it clear, however, that they're going to vet, in their infinite wisdom and academic expertise, the credentials, the qualifications, which is to say the cant of delivery, manifested by every faculty member in the institution, insofar as they take offense to what it is that is being concluded and presented by those faculty members. Again, this is a political purge. And the agenda is incidentally not restricted in its scope to the University of Colorado or the state of Colorado, but has been picked up by the likes of Newt Gingrich and David Horowitz on national TV, and they presented in very clear terms an intent to see this same pattern followed institution by institution everywhere in the country. So that basically what you have is an academy that serves as a cheering section for red, white, and blue George Bush-style politics.
And the question was on everybody's lips as they whined innocent American as if they'd fused it into all one word. If we're American, by definition, we're innocent no matter what it is we do in the world, what we embrace, what the consequences are. We're Americans, we're innocent, we're consequential, they're valueless. Get the symmetry straight. How do we keep ourselves safe from this sort of thing coming back? Oh, how could they do this? They hate our freedom. They're evil. Tiger cages in Guantanamo Bay, licensing of torture techniques, which we have Harvard constitutional lawyers now arguing should be permissible. The cloning of more and more Delta units. Commando teams, assassination squads, counterterrorism, wanding of people. They wanted me, apparently, to see that I wouldn't commit suicide while standing at the podium tonight. And actually, I've got my .357 terrorism weapon right here in my belt for all the good it did. Impounding my tweezers did not save anyone. Who heard the last time an aircraft was kidnapped by a terrorist using tweezers plucking the eyebrows of a frantic stewardess in order to... I mean, that's the level of insanity we are. When you get serious about security, and in some aspects of it are security, you think that's going to work against people who are embittered and hate you for the very good reason that you're butchering their children with presumed impunity? Ask the Israelis. They've got the most highly perfected and developed security state on the planet, and you got 14-year-old kids walking in there with bundles of dynamite and blowing them right out of cafes. You want to put your well-being and that of your children on a system and a structure and a set of priorities like that, go ahead, but count me and mine out, okay? If you want to be secure, if you want to be able to live a human life in all of its full dimension, if you want to have the security of that to pass it along to your children, if you want to be valued, in other words, as a human being, I don't want to get biblical here, but do unto others as you would expect to have done unto yourself. That's my first proposition. If you want to be secure from that natural and inevitable response to what it is that America's putting out into the world, start with stopping killing of their babies. Accord them the fundamental dignity of being human, not collateral damage. And America's been able to provide the world with an endless stream of glowing rhetoric, but how on that basis, since they've violated all of it, since they've always said one thing and acted precisely the opposite, is anyone out there going to believe anyone here if those assurances are made? Here's my real crushing blow. This is the radical finale of the whole thing. Let's just try pretending for a moment that the United States of America, like every other entity on the planet, is bound to obey the law.
There is how the media has spun the story, which is basically that you're a bad person and that you have a vulgar disregard for human life. But what I read and what I saw in the speech is, in fact, that unless we value everyone's lives equally, getting back to this calculus of how we calculate people's lives, we will continue to see these policies play out. And it's, in fact, a warning in defense of life. Is that fair? Is that sort of the...
Yeah, that's fair. I consider 911 itself to be more of a warning shot than anything else. I mean, in military terms, the strategic damage done to the United States was minuscule. $100 billion odd perhaps in damages done through depression in the stock market and all the rest of that. So it was not inconsequential. But it was not exactly going to bring about the collapse of the United States, either militarily or economically. They were sending a signal. I thought it might be better that the same signal be amplified and sent out so that it didn't end up being delivered in the same form and maybe more emphatically later on. So it was an attempt to take that warning and transmit it in terms that were comprehensible to people unequivocally. Say, here is what it is that's being said to you. You want it not to happen again. There's certain things you're going to have to do. And that's your security. It's also basic human decency. If you really want to consider how to secure you and yours from retaliation, we're going to have to eliminate what it is that's being retaliated from. And that'll have the added benefit of putting us back in touch with some human decency, some human comportment in the world. And I think that's a positive message, not a negative one.